Hi there everybody, this is Amy over at Authentically Amy, and I am going to give you a brief tutorial today on how I like to cut and prepare my binding and attach it to my quilt. So you guys know my style is I'm not going to be on the screen. I'm going to show you some images. Hopefully that's going to help walk you through the process. If you have any comments, be sure to comment down below, and I will do my best to answer those questions as thoroughly as I can. We start here with regular width of fabric. So here is a piece of Speckled by Ruby Star. I'm going to fold it in half just so it's easier for me to show you on this screen, but this is the full width of fabric on the fold. I'm going to line it up on my cutting mat, and we're going to cut 2.5-inch strips of this fabric. So using your ruler, your rotary cutter, and a combination of your mat or the markings on your ruler to measure out these 2.5-inch strips. And for this particular quilt, I do need 6 of these strips, and I have enough fabric here to cut 6. Once we have our 6 strips cut, we're going to move all of them up to the top, except for one, which we are going to unfold and lay out. Right side of the fabric facing up. Now you're going to take a second strip and unfold that as well. And this time we're going to lay right side of the fabric facing down. And so we're going to put this one coming down towards us. So the first one is horizontal, the second one is vertical. Grab a ruler and you're going to draw a line from the upper left intersection to the lower right intersection of the two fabrics. And you're going to bring that over to your sewing machine and stitch from one to the other. Once you've stitched from one to the other, you're just going to snip off, leaving approximately a 3/8 inch seam allowance, trimming off those little wings so that when you open it up, it will be flat. We're going to come to the next piece and do the same thing. So the right side of the fabric is facing up. We're going to take the right side of the next piece facing down. Take the ruler, mark from the intersection at the top left to the intersection at the bottom right, and stitch on that line. And you're going to do this until all 6 are attached and sewn together. At that point, you're going to head over to your ironing station. And this is now you have this big long piece that have all been trimmed. And we are going to start to press first, pressing the entire piece flat. And once the piece has been made flat, you're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together. So the right sides will be facing out all the way for the entire length of the strip. Now we get to the step where we're going to attach the binding to the quilt itself. Now you can choose whether you want to attach to the front or the back here. We are going to attach this to the back. It's just my preference. I have put some clips there just to show where I'm not going to stitch, because I want to leave some of it unstitched. We bring it over to our sewing machine and we start to stitch with the raw edge of the folded binding along the raw edge of the quilt, leaving about 1/4 inch seam allowance, and continue just stitching in a straight line until you get about 1/4 to 3/8 inch from the end of the fabric. When you get there, you're going to stop, turn the fabric so that you are now stitching towards the corner, and stitch a few inches towards the corner, and then cut your thread. Once the thread's cut, you're going to see that the stitches go all the way straight across and then towards the corner. Now you're going to take that extra strip that's off to the right, and first we're going to fold it up, creating this 90-degree mark, and then folding it straight down so that top edge is even with the quilt at top. I put a clip there just to help myself get situated. And now we're going to start stitching once again 1/4 inch from the edge and start stitching the entire length. So I'm going to remove that clip so it doesn't get in the way of the presser foot. And then we just start stitching again. We're going to do that one more time so you can see it again. So here we go, approaching another end. As we approach this end, I'm going to stop approximately 3/8 inch from the bottom of the quilt. Once I reach that, I will turn it, so I'm now stitching towards the corner. then I'll cut my thread, lift up my presser foot, and take the quilt out. Once again, you're going to see the stitches going straight across and then up towards the edge. Folding up to create a 90-degree angle, and then folding back down, lining the top edge up with the top of the quilt. Starting at approximately 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, both the top edge and the right edge here, we will start stitching. You can backstitch if you wish, and then just keep stitching. Now, I do not pin or clip, but feel free to do that if it gives you some level of comfort. So once we've stitched all the way around, we have these 2 long tails that are not stitched but overlap. We're going to take this one on the left and lay it nice and flat and taut against the bottom. We're going to cut a little bit past the halfway point between the 2 cut fabrics. Take that little end that you just cut off, and you're going to open it up so it lays flat on top of that left strip. Now take the right strip and once again pull it taut so it will line up with the edge of the fabric, and you are going to cut the top strip only where it overlaps. So basically you want the top and the bottom strip to overlap the amount that is the width of your strip, which is 2.5 inches in this particular case. So we want them to overlap exactly the width. So you can see that here. Once you have that, we're going to move into the next step. Now that they're cut to size, we're going to work to attach the 2 ends together. We start by taking some clips and clipping the actual quilt top together to keep it out of the way so we have a little bit more room to work. Take the left strip and open it up so the right side of fabric faces up, and take the right strip, open it up, and place it right side of fabric facing down. So this is very similar to how you attached all the strips to begin with. You can clip or pin them here. And then once again, we're going to stitch from the upper left of the intersection to the bottom right, just like we did on all the other pieces. So we stitch down this entire seam, cut our thread, remove our clips, and this is when you do your little test of wonder. Did it work? Is it the right size? And you should be able to pull it straight, and it is now the perfect size to fit your quilt top. You can open it back up, trim off that excess little tail. You can press it. I usually don't. I usually finger press it a little bit and then just attach that entire side. So now the entire binding, when we're done, will be attached to the quilt. Leaving that 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to stitch to where you started stitching. Once you get to that point, you can backstitch a stitch or 2 if you'd like, just to help lock it in place. I give myself plenty of room to do this so that I have enough fabric and enough space to sew those 2 ends together. So once you've attached that binding to the front or the back, whichever you prefer, you now have an option. So once you fold it over to the front, could you press it? Could you glue baste it? You could. Could you clip it? Yes, you could. You can stitch it on your machine, which is what I choose to do. So once I'm done, I will then flip it and I will stitch with either a blending thread or a contrasting thread, whatever look I'm going for. I will just top stitch right on the edge here. Once it's folded over, you could do it by hand. So if you like to hand stitch the binding on, a lot of people will then stitch the binding, like we just showed, to the front of the quilt and then fold it over and do the hand stitching on the back. But if you wanted to do big stitch hand stitching, you could easily stitch it onto the back with your machine and then big stitch hand stitch it on the front. So many options, but it's the same technique whether you're attaching it onto the front or the back using your machine. I hope this tutorial will give you some confidence when you are cutting, attaching your binding, and preparing it and getting it all ready to go so that you are finishing your project. Remember, a finished project is better than a perfect project in my book any day. Once again, let me know if you have any comments below. And if you have any questions, I'd love to hear those too. Feel free to subscribe and follow for more quilting and sewing content. I'll see you real soon.